I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's premier home purchase lender. We've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. Our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, we lock your interest rate for up to 90 days. Then, if rates go up, your rate stays locked. But if rates go down, your rate drops. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, Damn You, Hollywood is filmed before a live studio audience. And here's your host, the soulless robot himself, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Yeah, I did not consent to being filmed before a live studio audience. You know I have performance issues in public, Mark.
You've got performance issues.
Renegotiate my contract.
No, you said it and I have to laugh about it. You have performance issues.
That was a deliberate choice on my part, yes, to try and get the innuendo to make you chuckle. So I have succeeded, yay me.
Dick jokes! I love them! Go ahead.
Anyway, as Mark just intimated, I'm Robert Winfree. Hello, everyone. This is Damn You, Hollywood.
I would have thought you were above dick jokes. I mean, I feel like you're lowering yourself to my level. I'm not above dick jokes. I'm all about dick jokes. But
if you're on this show, you're not better than dick jokes.
All right, fair enough.
That's really not a point I can argue with. Look, the point being, Mark, if I want to make you laugh, you don't laugh necessarily at what I laugh at, so I have to go to what you laugh at.
And I do love a good dick joke.
And apparently a bad one.
Indeed. You should continue with the intro.
I should. Anyway, tonight, to the chagrin of our studio audience, who I will be machine gunning down at a later date.
Okay, that was unexpected.
Ooh. Oh, that's it. I'm calling the cops. Tonight we will be reviewing Alita Battle Angel. This is James Cameron produced, Robert Rodriguez directed, an adaptation of a manga from 70s?
One of us probably should have done some research.
Hang on.
We haven't done research before. Why would we start now?
Wow, 90s. Jeez. That's much newer than I thought it was.
Real quick,
so
that voice you keep hearing interrupting the introduction is the one and only from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
I'm sorry. Am I not supposed to be interrupting you? I don't want to be a bitch.
We interrupt each other all the time. Don't worry about it.
As long as you don't hate white dudes, you're fine, Brie Larson. And joining us from our Canadian audience.
Don't start that, Mark. Just don't. Because we'll go off on a tangent. I'm already annoyed. I'm going to have to address that kind of crap when talking about the movie. I don't want to deal with it before.
I took over Jesse's podcast last night and talked about that because I couldn't not. But real quick, from our Canadian offense, here's our good friend of the show, a man who loves his sci-fi, Mr. David Wright. How do you do,
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dave.
Nick.
Oh, good. That reference still hasn't died.
All right.
Unlike Dr. Nick Riviera. Yes.
Who was crushed by the... Never forget.
No, never.
All right, Robert, the show's yours again. Take it away, Johnny.
Well, Mark's here as well, as you can tell. Everybody say hi to Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, Mark. Again, tonight we'll be reviewing Alita Battle Angel. Okay. I was going to ask about expectation. Again, kind of my normal thing is, what did you expect from the movie? But I don't think anyone had real expectations about this. So instead, I'm going to start with Alexis and then move to Dave, and we're just going to, very briefly, please, why you decided you wanted to be on this show about, not just this show generally, that continues to baffle me. What inspired you to want to talk about this movie in particular? So, Alexis?
Well, interesting story. Originally, I'd volunteered to be on this episode because we were supposed to have another guest. My assistant, very good friend, Carrie Ann, is actually familiar with the original manga. She is a walking, talking anime encyclopedia, and I love her for it. But unfortunately, she decided fairly recently that she was not as caught up on the manga as she would have liked to act as an aficionado, and felt that it would be better to bow out. And that's fine. But I had already agreed to be on the show, so I was like, well, guess I'm going to go see Alita.
All right, and Dave, what brought you to the table this time around?
Okay. Well, way back in the day, I was pretty big into anime and manga. Just ask our good friend Andrew if you want to hear the horror stories about that. But every so often I keep my ear to what's going on and dip my toe in it, and so it was interesting to see what they would make using a Hollywood budget for an anime property. I mean, unlike Ghost in the Shell or Dragon Ball or any of the other not-so-good attempts. What kind of really brought me to this one is, one, Robert Rodriguez tends to be a pretty good director in the right situation. And more than anything, this has kind of been James Cameron, a fellow Canadian, by the way, his passion project for going back decades. This is basically part of his bill to make Avatar sequels until he dies. So I was kind of curious to see how that would all turn out in the end.
All right. James Cameron. Sorry, I'm still a little bit bitter about him. Wind up essentially kind of withdrawing his support from Guillermo del Toro's pitch for a Mountains of Madness movie, because I really want that. All right, time for your regularly scheduled plot synopsis for everyone out there. If you have not yet seen the movie and wish to avoid spoilers, 3, 2, 1. We open this movie with a brief bit of title card around the fall, a massive war, some 300 years prior to the start of the film. We are then introduced to Christoph Waltz as Dr. Dyson Ito, who might be the whitest man to ever bear a Japanese last name. As he looks through the scrap heap, the trash receptacle of the last floating city in the world, Zalem. While there, he locates not intact, but a still cognitively functional cyborg brain that he rescues and puts into a new body. In fact, the body he had designed for his daughter, which they get into, which becomes a minor point of emotional contention. He names her after his daughter because clearly he doesn't have issues related to the loss of his child. She explores a bit of the world because she has no memory. Learns about the division of class between everyone up in Zalem and those down in Iron City. She meets Hugo, a giant wet paper bag, basically, is all Hugo is on this story.
But he's a good-looking wet paper bag.
I couldn't stop looking at that giant mole underneath his right eye. And as teenage girls do, she is presented largely as having the emotional and mental maturity of a teenage girl, and fair play. They spend a lot of the movie going around the world. You get to introduce to some of the characters and concepts. Again, there's the class warfare. Well, warfare is a strong word. There's the class division. There's all the people trying to get to Zalim. Hugo really, really wants to go there. He's trying to build up enough equity by stripping cyborgs, by mugging cyborgs, not for money, but for their parts, and selling them to our nefarious... his actual position is never really discussed. I think the most we know of him specifically relates to his running a motorball team by the name of Vector. Sorry, I'll get to that in a minute because it just occurred to me. We also meet Dr. Ito's ex-wife, who is also trying to work her way back to Zalim because again, this gets revealed a little bit later, but she and Zalim were born... she and Ito were born on Zalim, but after their daughter was revealed to have some kind of illness, birth defect, it's not... if there's a bit of dialogue that explained it slipped my memory at this moment. But whatever was wrong with her caused them to be exiled because eugenics. And she's trying to win her way back there now that their daughter has passed on. Alita has a passion for physical combat and motorball. She actually winds up finding an old... let me rephrase. She is taken to a crashed ship that was from the enemy, the United Republics of Mars, who were the other participants in the Great War from 300 years ago. She finds a body, a cyborg body in there, that is something she's designed to fit in. Christoph Waltz reveals that she's actually one of the last, as far as they're all aware, member of a weaponized cyborg class that were called Berserkers. And he is hesitant about putting her in this body. He refuses initially. He does later after her current body is destroyed by Jackie Earle Haley on a giant robot body. There's a minor subplot about Christoph Waltz being... There aren't any police as such. There are... what do they call them? Hunter warriors?
Hunter warriors, yeah.
Something like that. They're essentially independent bounty hunters who take out people who have committed crimes. She becomes one of those very briefly. God, this is such a weird plot. It is such a weird thing to actually describe. Hugo winds up very nearly dead after Alita, our primary protagonist, insults one of the other Hunter warriors. Again, he nearly dies. He gets his head put on a cyborg body. Alita goes to confront Vector. I'm going to skip over a few things here that we'll get to individually at a later point. Alita kills Vector after having a brief conversation with the actual big bad behind everything, individual by the name of Nova, who is on Zalam and is apparently the only reason that was the one floating city that survived the Great War. In fact, he was the primary mission, or the primary target that was given to Alita when she raided the city 300 years ago. She was obviously unsuccessful for whatever reason. Hugo, who woke up in his cyborg body, also has a bounty on his head after being framed for murder. If this all sounds like a lot and a little bit slipshod, that's kind of because it is. He makes one last play to get to the city of Zelum by climbing up one of the large cargo tubes that they have connected to the city. Alita makes an appeal to him to come back. He looks like he's about to agree, and then a defense mechanism comes down and tears his body into several pieces. Alita can't stop him from falling off the side of this thing. He dies, but before he does die, he does get to thank her for changing him for the better. We fast forward a couple of months because the only actual way to get from Iron City to Zalem is to become the Motorball Champion of Champions, because one logically assumes that whatever violent blood sport is popular down below is more popular up above with just, better people doing it. Alita stands at the precipice of becoming the Champion of Champions to ascend to Zalem and to engage with Nova in some form of combat. Nova on Zalem looks down on the scene, removes his glasses to reveal that he is in fact the evilest of actors, Edward Norton. And we cut to credits, hoping desperately for a sequel if you're the studio. Now, again, I know there's a lot of smaller stuff I skipped over there. It's because a lot of this movie is less strictly plot-oriented, and a lot of this feels like setup to me. A lot of it is world-building, and I like a good world. I enjoy the world building, but this feels a little bit all over the place. And in fairness, and this is one of those slightly weird things, this works a lot better in practice than it does either on paper or with me just kind of describing it. But that's, again, anything that I left out that you guys want to bring up individually, you're more than welcome to. So, Mark, I suppose I'll start with you. Big takeaways, where do you want to start kind of dissecting this? Anything I left out?
No, you did fine. You actually managed to do that without annoying the piss out of me, so good for you. Look, I walked away from the movie going, that was a fun action-adventure movie. I was talking to... I can't remember why this got brought up, but I was talking about... Jesse and I were talking about anime, and I said... we were talking about it with the last Metal Hammer of Doom. We were talking about Beast in Black. Their first song was, I think, about, Fist of the North Star. And I said,
That's a classic.
Yeah. And he was asking me, he's like, did you ever see Fist of the North Star? And I said, yeah, I saw that. I saw Akira, because when I was in high school, that became the big thing among all of my friends was anime. It started with Akira, and then Fist of the North Star, and then, one of my friends got really deep into collecting a lot of the artwork and got into trading and all of this other stuff. It never appealed to me. I was never a huge fan of anime. I never particularly enjoyed, the movies and stuff like that. I didn't like the animation style. There's nothing about it really grabbed me. So I was surrounded by all these people who just thought it was the best thing ever. And I was like, meh. It just doesn't do anything for me. So my big takeaway from this movie was essentially this is exactly. I mean, years later, at the age of almost 43, I can tolerate it and kind of just enjoy whatever the story being told in front of me is. And there were elements of the movie that I liked. I liked, this essentially it's a movie. It's about a person trying to find with amnesia, trying to find their identity amidst this post-apocalyptic world. I liked the stuff with the dad, and him projecting his feelings of loss on this robot. And trying to recreate the relationship that he had with his daughter. I liked all of those things. So there were elements that I liked, but it just screamed anime. And so there's a part of me that was just like, yup, still don't like this stuff. Still have no desire to really get involved with any traditional anime or or anything like that. And that's kind of what this felt like. It felt like one of those old 1990s cartoon movies brought to life with real live actors.
Well, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let me back that statement up a little bit from sounding completely stupid by saying they could have taken the same story and not had given it that anime flavor. You know what I mean? Like there's a way they could have done this to where it doesn't scream like this comes right out of the same creative cauldron as Akira and Fist of the North Star. They didn't. They embraced it, And in embracing it, it kind of pushes me away.
All right, fair enough. I mean, again, this is clearly not. I'm really looking forward to, even more so now, your take on One Punch Man, but later.
Oh dear God.
I think I can look. I sold it to Mark based on the fact that it's largely a satire, and I think that'll work.
You know what's weird though? It's like I've always loved Voltron. Like we just wrapped up our TV party tonight on the new Voltron series from Netflix, and I loved Voltron as a kid, but I think that was because it was about giant mechanical lions, and those reminded me of Transformers. I used to love the Transformers where the set of 5 made one giant robot, so that might have been the connection for me.
Devastator, the Destructicons.
Devastator, yeah.
Yeah, Devastator. Well, there was a whole bunch of them. There were Autobot airplanes that turned into one giant one. There were Decepticon cars. There was a slew of these. I used to actually draw them when I was a kid. I used to make up my own. So I was kind of obsessed with the 5 become 1 thing.
They're called combiners.
Thank you. I was obsessed with combiners as a kid. And that might have been why Voltron, apart from its anime beginnings, still appealed to me. But I'm actually anxious to hear what Alexis and Dave thought of it, seeing as they don't have the intolerance for anime that I do.
Well, again, I'm a moderate anime fan, I would say. There's a handful of series that I've watched, a handful of movies that I've watched. Again, my best friend, assistant Carrie Ann, is the anime nut. I often joke with people that say, yeah, that's the main reason I brought her on, because she knows everything about the shows that I don't watch. And there is some truth to that. Excuse me. Sorry, guys, I'm still finding that nasty little bit of a cough that's going around. We were talking about that earlier. So it was interesting going in because I knew it was from a manga, but other than a couple of trailers and a few TV spots, I really had no idea what this movie was about. It's very rare for me to go into a film and it's that much of a blank slate for me. I've usually, I know about the characters, or I know about the story it's based on. I know something. And this time I really went in going, I have no idea what's going to happen. But I do agree that I felt that a lot of this movie was set up. At least the second half, and this is what bothered me. I did not know that James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez, well, Cameron's, this has been James Cameron's baby for years. He's been wanting to make this movie for ages, but he has not had the technology to make it work, and when he finally did have the technology, he was caught up with the Avatar sequels. So Robert Rodriguez, a good friend of his, basically said, I can direct this for you if you want to produce it. But yeah, like I said, I didn't know that there was going to be a sequel to this. And I felt like the first half of the movie, we had just a very basic, concrete story going on. But around the second half of the movie, all of a sudden, it jumped into massive overrush of trying to establish all the stuff that are just basically cement down. Oh, all that stuff that we established earlier, yeah, that's going to be resolved in another movie. I feel the first half was all exposition, and the second half was rushing to establish that we're not going to get an explanation for the exposition this go-around.
I'll tell you the one thing that really annoyed me about this movie, one particular scene, just my overall thoughts on it were, this was mostly an okay action adventure. It was a Saturday out, and it was inoffensive. And it's one of those where it's kind of hard for me to sit and talk about at any length because it was like, yeah, okay, that's a thing that happened, and it moved me in no other direction than it existed, and I was entertained for an hour or so. But the one scene in the movie where I wanted to throw my popcorn at the screen was when she walks in, because it just felt very forced and over the top, and in a movie about like cyborgs and and post-apocalyptic war, took me out of the movie because it was too unbelievable. Is the part where she's in the bar and she's trying to inspire the other bounty hunters to fight against Zalam or whatever the hell it was.
She's specifically referencing Grinishka, or however you pronounce that guy's name. Jackie Earl Haley.
It's Gruishka.
Gruishka.
Yeah, essentially she's trying to inspire a bunch of crooks to go fight against the man. And I'm like, are you?
Thank heavens they just laughed at her.
Well, of course, and that was the appropriate reaction to have. But
didn't see that one coming.
But whatever whoever wrote this might have been saying yes, but that was the point of that scene. It's still jarring. It was still annoying, and I feel like the character made a couple of leaps in personality to get to the point where she would do something like that. It was like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? She's just now finding out what she used to be. That she was a berserker and all of this, and then suddenly she's Helen of Troy. What? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that scene. Like, it started, and I went, really? Like, you haven't even set her up as an idealistic kid who's about to have reality beat around her head, which is normally what a scene like that. If your whole point is she's going to give this speech and everyone's going to laugh at her for being stupid, you have to at least set her up as stupid.
But we did get cyborg dogs.
Hey, the cyborg dogs were pretty awesome.
They were awesome. I'm like, that was a really good idea.
They set him up in the scene, and I'm like, oh, I hope they do something with him. He looks fun. All right, what did you think, Dave?
Short answer is I liked it. Longer answer is, could we get Robert Rodriguez to do a Ghost in the Shell movie for real this time?
Third time's a charm.
Yeah. Well, for live action at least. But yeah, like I'm not really that familiar with the original work. I mean, I know of it, but I never read any of the manga. I never watched any of the OVAs or anything like that. So I could at least go into it not really knowing what to expect, which was nice. But being familiar with the medium, like manga, anime, and that sort of thing, I was really kind of able to see, like, okay, yeah, this is totally a manga style story. And speaking to like how it finishes without really giving you the sort of final battle, because she has to go up into the city and fight Nova at some point, and there might be something after that. It's kind of knowing the structure of a typical shonen story. Shonen being like young boys, think like Dragon Ball, for example. It's that kind of genre. These are like epics. Yeah,
One
Naruto,
Piece.
One Piece. Yep. Those are all good examples.
My Hero Academia.
Yep. Yeah. These are all series meant to kind of go on basically forever.
These are all series meant to go to play in the middle of the night while I'm trying to sleep when my wife's put on Adult Swim.
Yeah. Well, what happens is like they're released in like weekly anthologies, like in magazines, basically, that you buy, and then you would read through this week's chapter, and then you would want to read the next week's chapter, and so on and so forth. So that's the way the stories are designed, and you'll usually sort of get your beginning arc where it's more of a simple story, just kind of establishing the characters and the world, and then once they've kind of established, okay, people like this, they want more, then boom, the world just explodes. Like think, for example, Dragon Ball. You start off with Dragon Ball Z at least. You start off with like, okay, there are aliens, and then now there's like a massive alien warlord. Like once you hit Frieza, then everything just like explodes and becomes massive and big. So I think a lot of that kind of explains the pacing of the story.
Yeah, that's fair.
That actually brings up an interesting point that I've been thinking about. Because I was talking with Carrie Ann and her boyfriend today, and they both said that they liked the movie. And when I pointed out some of the flaws that I felt that the movie had, they said, well, those may be flaws, but those are things that appear in the manga. For example, one of the things that I absolutely hated, and for the record, I agree that she gets her hunter warrior license, and then all of a sudden she goes to rally the troops. I'm like, no, honey, you have not earned this. You really have not earned that moment. The moment that the movie that I wanted to throw my popcorn at the movie was right before the ending. See, I kind of liked Hugo. You know, I knew what he was. And Hugo gets stabbed in the stomach by, what the hell was that guy's name? Zapan, who I actually really liked as a character. I loved Zapan. He's got this kick-ass metal body, but with a human face.
Was anyone else waiting for him when he got his face sliced off to go, my face, my valuable face?
So let me get this straight. You're going to take his face off.
I want to. All right, so we're gonna kill this guy, right? No. I want to take his face off.
Okay,
wait, what?
You
want to carve up his face? No. I want to take his. Man, you have been. What's the line that guy says? Because it's so. Man, you must have been. No more drugs for that man.
Yeah, but tell me when you said it. You did the face, the hand gesture, the face.
Oh, of course I did.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, totally.
You have to. It's Nicolas Cage. Anytime you quote a Nicolas Cage line, you must actually do the associated body motion.
Good to know. Okay, so Hugo gets stabbed in the stomach. He's bleeding out, and you have this really good scene, I feel, between him and Alita, where he apologizes because he was basically running a chop shop, as it were, and he was getting out of it. His time with Alita made him realize, wow, what I'm doing is wrong, and I want to get out. And
I'm sorry.
His timing was terrible.
The cynical part of me is going, hey, I suddenly realize I want to bang this robot. Maybe mugging them is a bad idea. Go on.
Or maybe going to your friends right when they're in the process of cutting up someone and saying, oh, by the way, guys, I'm out. You know, not the best time to have this conversation.
I just find it... I'm sorry, I'm too cynical. I find it hilarious. It's like, I'm having a crisis of conscience because I found a pretty robot. All right? Go on.
Okay. Well, either way, you get this really good... I'll admit that, you can poke a lot of holes in why he's suddenly turning, but there is still a really good scene where he's bleeding out and he's apologizing to Alita, and he said, look, I told my friends I didn't want to do this anymore because I love you. And I really did feel for the characters. I thought that was a really good scene. But as he is dying, Jennifer Connelly's character comes in, Sharon, Dr. Ida's ex-wife, who is a master surgeon, and she says, I know how to save him. And I don't really get what they did exactly, but I guess they attached his head to Alita's body.
She cut off his head and then utilized both blood and other fluids that power the cyborg, and then recirculated it through his brain to keep oxygen flowing to that organ while they transported him back to give him a more proper body. Was my interpretation of that.
Okay, so they do that. They get him back. You get the scene with the whole face off. And they get him back, and Ido says he's going to be okay. It's like, wow, Sharon really did a great job with the surgery. He's going to be all right. And then, after he wakes up, he starts climbing the pipes to get to Zalam, and he says, I'm always going to be on the run. I've got a hit on me. And she goes, well, we'll always be together. But then he dies. And I really felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me. Like, you gave us a really good death scene. You tell us it's not going to be a death scene, and we have this sigh of relief come over us because, regardless, we don't want these characters to die. And then they just throw him off the freaking pipe.
I don't know. His quote-unquote death didn't really affect me when, it's essentially he's just a head with a robot body, and I'm like, maybe he can survive that. He's, it's robot body. As long as he doesn't land on his head, he'll be fine.
Look, Rambo 2 had the decency of doing that all in under 2 minutes.
I was waiting for Alita to sprout interstellar jet thrusters from her feet so she could become the merriest of Sues.
She hasn't learned how to do that.
She doesn't have Iron Man technology. She suddenly can't turn into a rocket.
Despite actually being made of nanotech.
Well, either way, this gets back to what I was thinking. So, like I said, I was talking with my friends about this, and they said, yeah, but that's in the manga. And I said, I don't care if it's in the manga. I think it's a bad storytelling point. And they said, well, you just don't really get manga. And I said, you're right. I don't.
That's such a cop-out. And I don't want to pick on your friends, but as you were saying that, I'm like, that is such a horseshit line. Like, well, it's in the source material. Okay, well then the source material's fucked. Well, you don't understand the source material. Oh, get bent. You know.
But this goes back to what I'm sorry. It was David, right?
Yep.
What David was saying, that it's a very Shogun style story. That this is a movie that was clearly made for anime and manga fans, and I feel that this is a serious problem. Because so many movies that are based off of animes and manga, when they try to stick to the original tropes, it doesn't do well enough because there's not a wide enough audience.
Oh, essentially what you're doing is you're making an argument that basically goes, so this genre has inherent storytelling problems. That's all that says to me. And I'm not picking at you, and I'm not trying to overtalk you or anything, but whenever somebody says, well, that's just part of the genre, what you're basically saying is your genre is subpar, that your genre has inherent problems in it that people just accept because they like it as a whole. You know, like Robert picks on me all the time because I like the big giant explosion, action movies, which I admittedly have a lot of problems, but my comeback to him isn't, well, you just don't understand action movies.
I'm pretty sure you did say that to me once.
You probably did.
I might have said you don't understand Michael Bay. Not like I do.
No, Michael Bay. Michael Bay, I completely understand. Like, I've met 5 of him, at my mom's school because my mom works with. I'm a speech-language pathologist, and she also does occasionally work with the developmentally disabled.
That was a long way to make a retard joke, jerk.
Oh, God.
Next time, if you're going to make a retard joke, get there quicker, okay, Snappy?
Hey, you're right that if you can figure it out, you're not the brunt of it.
You were the one who called him autistic during one of our movie reviews.
Well, I'm not going to lie either. I need to pitch this back
okay,
to...
Can we move on before we lose what few listeners we have left?
Too late.
Hey, want to talk about racist Looney Tunes cartoons, Alexis?
Oh.
All right.
Well,
let me stop mansplaining all over Alexis and let her finish her point. But just know that argument is a setup for your genre is shit, basically. Go ahead.
Well, like I said, I just feel that there's a problem that I don't know if it can be done, because I don't think we've seen it yet, of a anime manga being brought to a Western audience, still managing to keep all of the tropes that made it so popular for fans of that stuff, the Shogun-style story, while still being able to be popular enough for Western audiences.
I know one that it was successful. It checked every box. It was successful on every level. Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Dragon Ball Evolution. And for the record, Last Airbender is not anime. It was made in Nickelodeon Studios.
No.
America.
Hold on. Last Airbender does qualify as anime.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. It does not.
No, it
anime
doesn't.
does not have to come from Japan.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Sorry, I agree. It does.
It absolutely
Airbender
does,
is
but we'll just
not
yell at
anime.
each other if we'll just wind up yelling at each other. We'll just wind up yelling insults. It's a philosophical impasse.
Wow, I make a terrible joke, and everyone gets into a busy slap fight while you're deconstructing the joke.
You still
Well,
got
like
it.
I said, I thought you were going to say Dragon Ball Evolution.
No,
Yeah, well, I was wondering when we talked about anime adaptations not being faithful to the originals. Has anyone here seen Dragon Ball Evolution? That was not faithful to the original.
Can I start
That was
over
not
again?
faithful to
Is the
anything.
joke funnier if I had said Dragon Ball Evolution? Because I thought The Last Airbender was the worst thing ever.
It is the worst thing ever.
It
Okay.
is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
The movie, not the show.
Okay. So is the joke funnier if I had said Dragon Ball Evolution, or is it funny enough with The Last Airbender?
I think Dragon Ball Evolution works better.
Because that is actual legit 100% anime.
Okay.
You won't get a lot of blowback on the point.
Okay, take two. I know one that checks all the boxes, and it was a superior anime movie, Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah, your troll has failed.
Okay.
Yeah, but
bringing up another point. This is another part to the discussion. Has anyone here? Okay, who here is a fan of Death Note, the anime or the?
Oh yeah, who doesn't
Of
love
what?
Death Note, man?
Okay, yeah, I love Death Note too. It's one of my favorite animes.
What the fuck is Death
hold
Note?
on, up until L dies. There's an important caveat.
Wait,
there.
sorry, white man over here. What is Death Note?
David,
It's
you wanna
on.
take this one?
It's on Netflix, Mark.
Oh, everything is on Netflix. Jesus Christ.
Okay, short version, Death Note follows a teenager who basically finds a notebook that was dropped by a...
Basically a Grim Reaper, you could say.
Okay, yeah. I was like, how do I define exactly what he is? Yeah, a Grim Reaper-esque figure. Think of it as the Japanese Grim Reaper, who basically just dropped it because he got bored. And any name that is written in this notebook, that person will die. And there's all these interesting little loopholes. There is this massive bureaucracy about how it works that you learn more about as the show progresses.
Wasn't this the plot to, like, Final Destination or something like that, where
No,
if your name is
hold on,
in the
no.
book, then you die?
No. The plot to Final Destination is you cannot escape death.
Okay. What am I thinking of, then?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I feel like there was a
Well, okay.
horror movie out there where, like, if your name is in the book, then you end up dead.
I mean, as a general gimmick that's been around for a while, there's multiple ones that could qualify.
Okay.
Again, we're coming back to the whole there is no true original source anywhere. You can find inspiration and probably tag a story back to a million other sources and say it could have been based off of that. Okay, David, did you see the live-action Netflix-produced Death Note adaptation?
No. Sorry, Death Note is one of those things that I never really got into. No offense to Death Note, but just not my thing.
Wait, who was it that said? I thought that was you that said that Death Note was awesome. Who said Death Note was awesome?
I think it was Robert.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I have to say it.
There were three men. There were three men on this podcast, and I don't watch this garbage. So you know, you had a 50-50 shot of getting that one right.
Okay. So, did anyone see the live-action Netflix adaptation of Death Note?
God help my soul. I was seduced by the possibility of William Dafoe as.
It's a good reason.
Hey, I'll tell you this much. I don't care what you say. Willem Dafoe was born to play Ryuken. I thought he excelled in that role.
I'm just saying that's why I watched it. And in fairness, that's the only semi-decent thing about it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I've gotten into several arguments with diehard fans where they say they hate all the changes. And I say, here's the thing. Several aspects of the show that they changed because those would not work for a Western audience. They really needed to move a lot of things around because there were so many parts of it that we were just not going to get. And I feel that comes back to this concept of, is it the idea that Shogun anime-based stories have so much that they have to stay loyal to that I don't know if they can completely 100% appeal to a Western audience without changing so much that they have to lose their core audience.
Let me put on my producer hat and answer that question for you. The object is to make money, and if you don't feel like and the most money is made on a wide appeal movie. No, and I'm not against the idea of taking anime or manga and trying to make it into a wide appeal movie, but if you're going to do so, you have to lose some of those tropes because
that's called Dragon Ball Evolution.
Because you can find just about any any niche product and make something that appeals to, as I've brought up many times before, the long tail of fandom, to where you get that very, very small, infinitesimal niche audience, but you're going to make about $1.35 on that project. And so, is it worth it? Maybe if artistic integrity is what you're after, but if you're trying to make a paycheck, not so much.
Well, I would actually disagree because looking at the origins of this movie, I don't think the studio really cared. Like, the studio was just like, this is James Cameron's thing. We want him to keep pumping out Avatar movies for the rest of his life so we can make the big money on those.
Look,
sure, give him $200 million to make his anime, Japanese, Chinese, whatever the heck it is, thing. Go ahead. Keep that Avatar money coming in. To
your point, two things. One, it's a Fox production. This thing went into production while they were being bought by Disney. At that point, I'm pretty sure anything that was pitched at Fox was like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. We're going down in flames, and we're about to be absorbed by the Walt Disney Company. Who gives a shit? Number one. Number two, if the deal was let him make whatever passion project he wants, who gives a fuck who it appeals to, or if it makes any money, it'll be a write-off anyway, because we want to make him happy, so he'll keep doing billion-dollar Avatar projects. Again, it's this kind of, now the whole frame of this movie changes to, are you trying for a mass appeal, or are you just trying to make this director happy, or this producer? And it sounds like this whole movie was put out there to make this producer happy.
That's my theory, because you look at Dragon Ball Evolution, which was just an absolute mess of what were they thinking.
Agreed.
And then even you look at Ghost in the Shell, which, whilst I wouldn't call it a bad movie, it was unbelievably bland. They pretty much said, take this world and tell the least interesting story you can in it, because we don't want people to have to, think about anything.
Yeah, one of my favorite reviewers say about that movie, Ghost in the Shell, all shell, no ghost.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, look, if you're making the argument that, if you don't try to keep the tropes intact and appeal to that niche audience, you're not going to make a very interesting film. I think that's a slight against filmmakers. I think you can do both. You can absolutely make a wide appeal movie. I
don't know how much of the original story the film covers. I don't know how many volumes, but I think all of the sort of issues that we're having with this is just them having to compress that amount of story into a coherent film narrative. Alexis, you mentioned how it seemed really strange that she would, try and have that much authority with the hunter warriors that soon. Well, probably if you read the manga, they probably did a few months of every week there's a new evil cyborg she has to hunt down, and by the point she goes into the bar and starts trying to, rally the troops, she's got the street cred, but where are you going to stick that in a 2-hour movie? We need to get to her challenging Nova or whatever his name is.
But again,
a simple two different shonen power upgrades in that film. You got a new super body and a sword that cuts everything. This is we're at Super Saiyan 2 on the Dragon Ball scale right now.
Well, again, I think that's a simple solution handled in the writer's room. Don't give in to, fuck it, we got to get to the mall, which is a Mallrats reference.
Yeah,
Robert,
my problem is I've kind of gotten so used to the tropes in these films that it's kind of just gotten boring. When they had, Christoph Waltz saying "Oh, I'm not going to give you your new body because it's too dangerous." I'm like, "Oh, just give it to her. We know she's going to have it by the end of the film anyway." Can't we just skip this part? Shut up, Adrian. Rocky's going to punch a guy by the end of the movie.
Right. Stop crying, Luke. We all know you're getting off Tatooine. We just have to burn your family first.
Yeah. Actually, the thing I kept laughing to myself was, okay, Hugo or Ido, you have a romantic interest and you have a mentor. One of these dudes is not making it out of this movie alive. Point flip on which one.
I expected both of them. There was a point in this movie when I thought, okay, they're both going to die and she's going to wind up in an acrimonious mentorship with Jennifer Connelly.
Okay, I'm just going to also say this. When they revealed that Vector was lying about getting them up to
Zolem, whatever.
Well, not really. He was only 90% lying. The last 10% was true.
The last 10% was the parts of you that actually made it.
Exactly. Your brain, your eyeballs, your heart, those get to go.
A lie by omission is still a lie.
I'm just going to say this. When he opens the case and reveals Sharon's eyes and brain, was anyone else getting a serious RoboCop 3 flashback?
Yep.
I was getting something. I looked at that and I'm like, that. I was waiting for Beaker to jump out of there. It's just it looked very Muppets to me. It was not a well done prop. No,
it wasn't.
Yeah.
All right. Let me think.
It was nice to see a post-apocalypse where T-shirts have survived, though.
Fair enough.
It's hey, clothes, they still have them.
I think my other complaint with the movie was, this sounds weird, the special effects in this movie were astounding. The CGI is just, you have to realize that every time Alita's on screen, it's completely mocap on the actress. Even her clothes. There's scenes where she's wearing a sweater or just a t-shirt or whatever over her robot body. Even that is CGI. She was wearing nothing but a mocap suit with the camera on her head for the entire filming. And I remember talking to a friend and going, I wasn't really crazy about the movie that much, but oh my god, the special effects were amazing. And then I sat back and I thought, why does that sound familiar? Oh, yeah. I said the exact same thing about Avatar.
Did anyone else have a laugh out loud moment like I did when she gets the new nanotech body and they went out of their way to purposely give her boobs?
No.
Well, Mark, I thought you would have known this by now, but I hope you're sitting down. Women have boobs.
I laughed at it because the impression that and maybe this is my misunderstanding of the story, but the impression I got is that these were like robot soldiers. They weren't necessarily born people who like transferred their consciousness into these entities. So
you would be laboring under a misapprehension then.
Okay, I think that's why I was laughing at it, because I'm getting this impression that she's basically just this hunter-killer droid that forgot she was a hunter-killer, and then
no, it's very expressly stated she has a human brain. Cyborgs are both; they are human and
I remember that part of it, but all right, I guess this is where I get lost in the minutia. I don't know, whatever. It made me laugh, and yes, I understand female anatomy jerk face.
Again, it's not Iron Giant, it's RoboCop.
Got it.
Now, that didn't bother me just because they at least gave a reason for it. Christoph Waltz actually does say, "Oh, this is incredible. The suit's actually adjusting to her to what she believes she looks like."
Mm-hmm.
That made me laugh. So sue me.
That's all right.
Sure, okay, it's a stupid level of technology, much like Spider-Man having a suit that intuitively fires webs and has a parachute attached to it and extra legs that sprout for no reason other than because his name is Spider-Man.
That made more sense to me.
It made less sense.
More.
Significantly less. You were just willing to go along with that.
Overall, I thought the design was pretty conservative.
Okay, fair enough. My design's not as conservative as yours.
I'm not touching that comment with a 10-foot.
We're on the Rob Liefeld scale here, guys.
Look, no. There were not enough pouches on Spider-Man's costume to be on the Liefeld scale.
Oh, wait for the next movie. I see plenty of pouches in that black costume he's wearing.
Are they seriously giving him this black costume?
Not that costume.
It's not the Venom costume. It's the stealth suit.
Okay, Look, I haven't seen the trailer. I don't really want to see the movie.
You're going to anyway.
Look, you can only make me see so many things featuring Jake Gyllenhaal before I find you and kill you. I'm just warning about that.
I'll take my chances, buddy. All right.
For the record, Velvet Buzzsaw on Netflix, great movie.
I've been meaning to... I'm leery about Jake Gyllenhaal, not because he's a bad actor, but because he chooses projects that make me go, why? Just why?
Did you see Nightcrawler?
I did.
Part of it.
Loved it.
Look, did you like Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal performance from Gyllenhaal. I didn't like the movie.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. Velvet Buzzsaw, same director, same crew, same... Rene Russo and Jake Gyllenhaal are both in it again. So if you liked Nightcrawler, you'll like Velvet Buzzsaw.
Fair enough. All right. As for this movie, I came away with it with a couple of things. One, I walked out and went, okay, that's about as corny a popcorn movie as you're going to find. And I mean that as both a compliment and a bit of a backhanded compliment. There's not a whole lot. It's weird because this movie kind of vacillates between trying to jam too much into something and not actually doing anything. Which is a relatively impressive balance to strike, all things considered.
Yeah, again, the story has to continue. They got to keep selling those volumes.
Again, the visuals are deeply impressive. There were, I think, 2 scenes where they're not, and it kind of stands out that they're not because everything else is so good. I can't even remember what they were now, but there were. Again, it's a minor thing. There's just a couple of scenes that, everything else, I know intellectually is CGI, but this really looks like CGI.
I kept laughing at I can't remember the actor's name. The father, Ito.
Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, Christoph Waltz. Christoph Waltz running around with a giant hammer.
That was
Awkwardly running around with a giant
hammer.
like a fucking cartoon character. I think at one point he actually hops on one leg as he's trying to turn a corner.
Yes, God bless Christoph Waltz for that, because he kind of leans into it just the right amount.
Yeah, it was very cartoony looking.
I mean, honestly, my favorite thing from him is when he breaks up the bar fight by just saying, "Knock it off or no more free repairs." And immediately everybody's like, all right, okay, Doc.
Admittedly, that part did make me laugh. I did like the guy with the robot dogs. That was Jeff Fahey, who's done a handful of projects with Robert Rodriguez before. He was in Planet Terror. He was JT.
Yeah, just another one of those. And you can see a lot of the old Robert Rodriguez regulars here. Minor shout out to the best cast and best performance in the entire history of Jai Courtney's career when he plays an emotionless cyborg athlete. Only thing he is qualified to do on film.
Yep, perfect casting.
I'll give you that.
All right, are we ready here?
Hang on, I had one more thing, I think. Oh, just very briefly. This movie, okay, Hugo, the guy, just wet paper bag. Like, generic teenage quasi-attractive romance thing. Like, it's bad acting from him. He was just there to look moderately attractive. And to the degree to which he succeeds at that is down to your personal preference. But the quality of actors that they assembled for this movie is bizarrely impressive, considering how mediocre so much of it is. I mean, you have Christoph Waltz, 2-time Oscar winner, and just
and the author of Utain, James.
Look, a man whose mere presence in films has driven me to watch terrible movies because he's associated with them.
You sat through Hornet, didn't you?
No. I will not. Even Christoph Waltz cannot get me to watch Seth Rogen. I did, however, see Water for Elephants.
Wow, there's just a silence afterwards.
Believe me, I'm probably the only one who did.
Yeah, I mean, good on you, man. Glad you liked it.
I mean, again, I didn't. That's kind of the
okay. Sucks to be you.
Christoph Waltz is such a good actor that he has driven me to watch bad movies in the past. But you have him, a multi-time Oscar winner. You have Jennifer Connelly, Oscar winner. Mahershala Ali, Oscar winner.
Who really doesn't do anything in this movie besides be a puppet for Nova.
I know. You have. Speaking of, again, evil actors, Edward Norton, Oscar nominee, arguably should have won the year he was nominated. You have Jackie Earle Haley in one of the CGI roles, Oscar nominee if not winner. So you have this really deeply impressive assemblage of talent. And I just wonder how bad this movie would have been if you had lesser actors doing all this other stuff.
Probably significantly. Look, I want to move on, so I want to give Alexis the last word, and then David the last word. Go ahead, Alexis.
Again, I didn't know much about this movie. I didn't know that they wanted to do a sequel, and I honestly felt leaving the theater like I had been kind of let down. I thought I wanted to see more than what we were given. I wanted to know more about Vector as a villain. We knew nothing about him. We didn't learn anything about him. All of his best scenes, again, the actor, brilliant. I love this guy. But all of his scenes where he has the best parts, he's just speaking for Nova, who apparently has some I can't remember if they said he was just mind controlling him in general, or
there's a chip or some kind of cybernetic implant that a lot of people apparently have that he has access to.
Okay. But I wanted to see Zalem. Everyone keeps talking about how great this place is. I'm like, well, cool. I want to know what makes it so great. We get absolutely nothing.
Free healthcare.
Oh, shut up.
A basic income guarantee.
Look. The real reason that Zalem is so great, and let's all just say it, let's get it out there, is that Edward Norton's the only white man.
Wasn't this also the plot to Elysium?
Yes.
Yeah, but we actually saw what made Elysium so great. We saw the health pods up there. We saw more of the architecture and the people. We were given ideas of why it would be so great to go up there. We were given nothing of Zalem.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see that piece of shit.
What, Elysium?
Yeah.
No, I saw it. My husband and I rented it. It's not terrible. It's not that memorable, but it's not terrible.
How was Matt Damon in it?
Matt Damon, he got the cyborg suit with the power armor. He went boom, 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 and he got to shoot people.
Moving on.
Sorry, I have to do that whenever Matt Damon gets brought up. I don't even know. Like, it started as a bad joke around my house that bled onto the podcast.
Matt Damon's in the movie.
Okay, moving on. There were elements of this movie that I enjoyed. I ended up seeing it in IMAX 3D, and the battle scenes and the
Totally worth it.
yeah, the motorball scenes. Oh my god, they look amazing.
Dude, my favorite part of this movie is actually when she's competing, and they've got all the hired guns around her, and they just start killing each other, and you hear the announcer go, "Well, it's No Rules Tuesday." I fucking laughed my ass off at that. That was the best part of the movie.
Maybe if we're lucky, a motorball game will break out during this fight to the death.
That was the best part. I honestly could have just, I could have just seen 2 hours of motorball and that guy making funny commentary, and I'd have been happy.
There's a James.
You know
Caan,
what? I'll actually give you that.
There's a James Caan movie I'd like to recommend for you. Then
It's called Rollerball.
it is.
David, final thoughts.
Okay, overall, I'd probably say this is the best live-action Hollywood adaptation of a manga property, though granted the field's not that big.
That's like saying Tom Cruise is the tallest midget.
Yeah, but it actually crossed over into, like, hey, we actually have a decent one of these now. So that was good.
We'll see. Here's the trick. If they can somehow write in, if they can dig through the manga, or just invented a whole cloth the fact that Alita is actually a princess, Disney will keep making these movies.
You know that.
You might have something there.
It does bring up a point. This movie cost like something close to $200 million.
Hey!
Yeah,
we haven't
not
gotten there yet.
Yeah, let me finish.
No, I was just saying, it's like, I don't know if can they break even on this to make a sequel?
I don't know. Let's talk about it in just a moment.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, like, it was nice to see people who actually cared about making a movie that was faithful to the original. Like, you could tell a lot of the scenes. You can imagine that they were looking off of the drawings in the original book. The only really outstanding problem is just like adapting that shonen story structure into a 2-hour film and having it sort of have a satisfactory ending. That's sort of the next step if they ever make more of these.
There's an important distinction that's to be made, and this goes not just to anime or manga adaptations, but to any comic book, anything that you are transferring from one medium to another. The key word is adaptation, not representation.
Agreed.
If all you do is take stuff from one and stick them in the other, it's not going to work. You have to find the magic formula for adapting from one medium to the other, and we haven't really found that either the right person or the right formula to really kind of get an anime series adapted into a live action movie. I mean, the fact that this is pretty handily, I think, the best one. There might be a handful of very specific ones that were like released in Japan only that you could bring up as being on the better side of things, but when someone figures that out, how to do it properly, they're gonna be able to make a lot of money off of it.
The trick is finding the property that actually has like wide appeal. Just because it's the easiest to draw upon. Comic books were not a mass appeal. We're not a mass appeal property, and not a mass appeal genre until some of the comic book movies became successful. And because and they became successful not so much because they were comic books, because they told a really great story. They had great actors. If you think about like the 70s Superman movie, that's successful not just because it's Superman, who was part of a niche property, but because they told an amazing story with a great actor in the lead role. I don't know enough about animes and mangas to know if there's anything out there that if you got the right actor and the right director together would appeal to people who don't normally watch this stuff. But that's the trick.
I think there is. It's just what has the magic, combination of factors. Like, there's a ton of stuff out there, and there will be something out there that, like, there is, I think, like a anime or a manga for everyone. It's just being able to pick out which one is very difficult because it's all about individual taste. Mm-hmm. And in this case, this is a serialized story meant to be told for ages. I mean, they made like Last Order manga series to tie up all the loose ends from the original series. That second series is longer than the original series. Like, it's just these stories are meant to go on forever and ever and ever until the money runs dry, and that creates some problems. But like, the reason why I never say anime when I'm talking about this stuff, I always say shonen, is because that is a specific type of story with a specific way of being told.
The question here's the question that I think anybody who's trying to figure this out, and make the magic $1 billion project, who's the Batman of the anime world or the manga world? And when they figure out who Batman is, then just don't cast Ben Affleck, and you'll have a $1 billion project on your hands.
Yeah,
and don't get Zack Snyder to direct it.
Yeah, I would say that maybe the Netflix Cowboy Bebop series has the highest chance of getting widespread appeal, because that is
if they get that right, that'll be so good.
Yeah, because like you need to know absolutely nothing about Japan to get it, and it's just a good basic story. Sorry, Alexis, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I was going to make a joke saying, didn't we agree it was One Punch Man? But no, you're right. If Cowboy Bebop, I think, could very well be the linchpin that will finally bring more Western audiences to anime.
So help me God, if they screw with that opening, I'm going to find someone and kill them.
Yeah, if Yoko Kanno is not doing the music, just give up. Just don't even bother.
Is there a Cowboy Bebop live action in the works?
Yes.
Yes, Netflix series.
There's supposedly been one for ages. I mean,
yeah, it's one of those projects that just bounces around.
Okay, so
Keanu Reeves has supposedly been tapped to play the lead for 15 years now.
Get bent. Keanu could never be cool enough to be Spike.
But he looks the part.
I don't care how he looks. He's not cool.
I'm not going to say anything about John Wick. The guy's great.
Hold on. I love John Wick. Don't get me wrong. And Keanu's a very believable action star because he's dedicated a lot of his time to actual martial arts, so he knows what he's doing physically.
You tell him, Eddie.
Keanu is not... there's none of those iconic Spike shots that you can just kind of have Keanu in there and go, yeah, that's 1/8 as cool as Spike.
I'll agree. Keanu Reeves does not work.
Here's the problem with this conversation. When I said who's the Batman, you all went Cowboy Bebop. Then you kind of undermine the entire argument by saying, and it's a Netflix series. The combination has to be, who's your Batman, and then make a feature.
This is going to be a feature film. I think not an ongoing series, but it's Netflix exclusive.
I don't. Netflix. To me, the crossover success really comes when you can get it on the silver screen, in a mass audience appeal, and it makes $1 billion. Then you are stuck.
You are stuck in the past, sir.
I am not. I am, however, stuck on the money.
That was the worst transition you've ever done.
You're the worst transition I've ever done.
Do I have to separate you two?
Here we go. Money
we live across the country from each other.
People come to this show to hear us bicker. Don't you understand that? All right. Alita Battle Angel had a budget of somewhere between 170 million net and 200 million gross. It is currently at $137.1 million, according to its Wikipedia page. The Weekend breaks down like this. Break it down. It was the number one movie of the weekend. Hooray! We're going to look at...
It didn't have a lot of competition.
It debuted at number one. It knocked the Lego Movie Part 2, which I saw with my kids and a friend of mine and her daughter, and we had a lovely time.
Is that as bad as everyone... I've heard nothing positive about that movie. Did you hate it too?
Oh, no, I laughed my ass off. I thought it was funny as hell.
Okay, so it really sucks. Gotcha.
Okay, got it. You suck. Isn't It Romantic debuted at number 3. What Men Want fell from 2 to 4. Happy Death Day to You apparently is supposed to be really good. Well, it debuted at number 5. Liam Neeson Fights a Polar Bear drops from 3 to 6. The Upside drops from 4 to 7. Glass 5 to 8. The Prodigy 6 to 9. Green Book 7 to 10. Still out there in theaters, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 9 to 11. Aquaman 8 to 12. Ralph Breaks the Internet, apparently is back in theaters, jumped from 29 to 13. They Shall Not Grow Old, 12 to 14. A Dog's Way Home, 11 to 15. Bohemian Rhapsody kept its place at number 16 for a second week in a row. Miss Bala, drops from 10 to 17 because apparently nobody fucking saw this thing. Good job, Sony.
It's Sony. All they do is stumble ass backwards into something stupid like Venom that people are inexplicably drawn to, that barely keeps them afloat. And Sony is a comedy of errors. They want to be bought by Disney, but every time they get bad enough that Disney sees there's enough of
it's springtime for Hitler. It's always springtime for Hitler at Sony.
Yes.
I just want to see Michael Bay, Roberto Orci, and Alex Kurtzman get up, take the crown from the Transformers franchise, and place it on Venom's head.
Go ahead,
I
Alexis.
wanted known that once again we were discussing a completely unrelated movie, and yet we had to throw in a bash against Venom.
Yes,
it was only because he brought up Sony.
The streak continues. A Star is Born jumped from 23 to 19 because it's Oscar season and a lot of the stuff's back in theaters again. And then finally, The Favorite was at number 20. Nothing particularly shocking with any of this. Only
that the favorite got made.
Let me ask you, Robert. Do you think with everything coming out over the next few weeks, let's put it this way. Next week, this week coming up, I think the only thing worth seeing is Fighting with My Family, which we'll be reviewing. And
I hate you for that so much, by the way.
You're welcome, sir.
So much of my hate.
This weekend coming up is also How to Train Your Dragon. So I don't think Alita Battle Angel had a lot of children in the audience to begin with, so it's sort of a non-factor. The following week, your two big movies are Greta and a Tyler Perry movie. Again, not really the same audience. And then Captain Marvel. So it's got this weekend and next weekend to make all the money it's going to make, and then it's going to get promptly kicked right out of the theater. Do you think it can make $400 million in 2 weeks?
Has it opened everywhere yet?
Let's see. The film was released by 20th Century Fox in the U.S. on February 14th. The film is set for release in Japan and China on February 22nd. So, yeah, okay. I'm going to go ahead and say it probably gets to around 400,000.
Million.
Yeah,
it'll probably do enough to break even. Its worldwide gross at the moment does not include some of the primary markets it's aimed at. And, again, it's just kind of a, relatively amusing popcorn movie. Those can have some surprising legs. I'm not sure they will in this instance. I'm not sure this one will in particular, mind you, but...
Well, like I said, it's got 2 weeks. So, and it's going to, and it opens this weekend in Japan and China. That's big.
Yeah, I imagine it'll wind up being okay, but just okay financially.
Yeah, I don't... okay enough that Disney's going to continue with the series Once the deal with Fox is finalized.
Believe it or not, probably. I mean, Disney doesn't mind. This is one of the crazy things about Disney we've talked about. When they hit things out of the park, they hit them so far out of the park, they don't mind taking the occasional
bomb.
They really don't mind bombing every now and then because, hey, $2 billion on one movie. You know what? We don't care that we flushed away $40 million on this.
Yeah, I mean, for every Avengers, there's a BFG, which is kind of fine. Here's the thing, and the other thing I was talking about is, I think when you think about the kind of films and the amount of films Disney is going to produce, you have to then think about Disney Plus, because maybe the next one doesn't get released in America in theaters. Maybe it's a limited release in Japan and China, and then exclusive on Disney Plus, and that's that. But they have to for Disney to be competitive in the streaming marketplace. They have to have a very strong, hand of new IP. They have to have a lot of new
There's only
products
so
out there.
much that their library, as impressive as it is going to get them.
Well, that's my point. Like, if they don't continue to create new products for people to watch on Disney Plus, they're not going to survive. And then I think that's why, I mean, Netflix is burning through cash right now because they're trying to stock up on their exclusive. That's what I was looking for. Their exclusive properties, like Bird Bath or whatever the fuck it was called, where people started walking around in blindfolds.
Bird Box.
Whatever.
Terrible movie.
But same thing with Hulu. It's like, all the money's in the exclusivity. So it might be up to, if this thing's even got moderate legs to it, and it's not an utter and complete, Valeria and the City of 1,000 wasted dollars, then, they might invest in continuing to do it, figuring, there's a market out there, and maybe that's the difference between someone picking up Disney Plus or not, subscribing to it. So,
Also take into account, James, if Avatar 2 does well, James Cameron might start to twist their arm a little bit. It's like, same as with this one.
Yeah, if Avatar 2 does it does $2 billion again, and then he walks in the office and says, I want to make Alita, they're like, we don't care what you want to make, here's money, go.
Yeah.
He doesn't even walk in himself. He sends a messenger who is treated like God because he represents the interest of James Cameron.
I mean, to be fair, he is kind of like one of those guys that can just say, like, write me a check for $200 million and I'll bring you a hit.
All right,
Am I the only person in this group who is seriously not looking forward to the Avatar sequels?
I can't say I'm looking forward to it. I'm also not dreading it. It's just kind of like, okay, we'll see where that goes.
I did not care for the first Avatar movie, especially. I've seen that story many other times, done better in a lot of respects.
I don't care
You
one
and
way
me
or the
both.
other.
I don't actually care enough to be dreading them, but
I'll watch them, I'll make Robert review them, and I'll promptly forget about them. Worldwide, here's where we stand right now. Glass is still number one. Good for you, Universal. At 235 million worldwide. The hilarious thing about that number is by the time March is done, no one's going to remember that was in the top 10 or even number one. How to Train Your Dragon has been already released worldwide. It just hasn't been released in the United States just yet. So it's currently at 175 million. It's number 2 in the world. Alita is number 3 with 137. Good for you, Fox. You used to be a studio. Escape Room. I can't believe people saw this, which was brought to you by Sony at 115 million. None of this matters. None of this is going to matter come March 8th. The Upside by STX has 104 million. That's going to be the last time they see the top 10 this year, by the way. The Lego Movie's at number 6 with 103. Dragon Ball.
Shame on anyone who paid to see that movie.
Your mom. Dragon Ball Super Broly at 103 million. And then rounding out the top 10 is A Dog's Way Home, What Men Want, and Happy Death Day to You. All right. Any Alexis? I know this is the part of the podcast you love when we get into the nuts and bolts of the money. So, any comments here?
Well, like I said, if this film actually does make enough money to really warrant a sequel without James Cameron really pushing heavily for it, I will be surprised. But again, I feel like Cameron also just wants an excuse to show off his technology.
It's fair. All right, folks, I've got a question for you.
That wasn't
Are
a
you
question.
ready?
That was a call.
I'm playing a thing.
I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I'm going to hand you a script, Alexis. Here's my cues for when I play sound effects.
I am genuinely sorry.
All right, in honor of Brie Larson and inclusivity, I'm only going to read rotten reviews from women. Because women need to be heard, ladies and gentlemen. I am a proponent of this. I'm with you, Brie Larson. Fuck white people. I mean, men. We need to hear more women critics. This segment is about promoting the woman critic. Here we go. Are you guys ready?
I hate you so much right now. All right, no, you know what? Bring it on. Bring it on. I'll lean into this. I'll lean into this bit if this is how we're going. All right.
Come
Come on, Robert. You'll savage anyone, regardless of race or gender.
Come on, stick that chin out there, buddy. All right, Emily Asher.
Oh, please. Hit me all you want. I do not care.
All right, in honor of Brie Larson, here we go. We love you, babe. Emily Ashen Perrin of Tor.com. Alita is a muddled film that packs in action at the expense of substance and relies on Cameron's worst storytelling impulses.
A, James Cameron didn't write nor direct this, you stupid bitch.
I think he actually does have a screen
co-wrote the
credit.
script.
Oh, he co-wrote it? My mistake. I apologize.
Ha! You mansplaining thing, you.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, do the next one.
No. I meant keep insulting me.
No, that's all I got, sorry.
Okay, then allow me to. Cameron's involvement is, yes, he co-wrote the script. I actually wonder, I would genuinely like to see the breakdown of who wrote what for this. And anytime you get something that's co-written like this, I am genuinely curious because I don't think that the other part of the criticism is on point. I don't think this deals with James Cameron's worst storytelling impulses. I mean,
The characters had more than one dimension in some cases.
Yes.
Which is definitely not James Cameron.
yes. I mean, and as far as the other point about it cramming in action over style, I mean, action over substance, rather, that's really the only draw here. One does not go to see anything associated with either James Cameron or Robert Rodriguez for thought-provoking, nuanced art. Individually, much less together. That's just not a thing that these guys do. Going into it expecting any of those things is simply the amount of your own baggage you've brought to bear on this.
Sarah Knight Adams sent him Sarah's backstage pass. No doubt we have to talk about those creepy big eyes. From start to finish, they are disconcerting, which is a shame, as Alita, Rosa Salazar, the spunky female lead character, doesn't need them to be alluring.
I don't think
So
they were
you-
going for alluring. Sorry,
so
go
you're,
ahead.
So you're just trying to objectify this fictional character, then? Is that what you're doing here? How dare you, sir? This is a character, not a piece of meat.
Ma'am!
How dare you, ma'am? This is a character, not a piece of meat. I mean, even if you wanted to look at the character, it's mostly metal. I mean, I'm not trying to kink shame anyone here, but
Samantha Nelson of The Verge. It's a shame the film doesn't stand on its own with the story as creative and engaging as its setting.
I'm not sure what the actual point of that criticism is.
Yeah, I was going to say, is she insulting that it's an adaptation? Is she insulting that they want to make a sequel? I don't quite get what the story doesn't stand on its own.
That's like,
comment comes from.
yeah, that's barely a coherent sentence you put together there, lady.
Alison Rowan of the Herald, Scotland. Robert Rodriguez delivers a by-the-numbers story.
I mean, it's Robert Rodriguez. Second of all, hang on. Second of all, have you not paid attention to how badly people respond to you breaking conventional narrative structure these days? I mean, Mark throws a hissy fit every time.
Shut up.
Tell me I'm wrong, then tell me to shut up.
It's a popcorn movie. We're not exactly trying to break the mold here. It's just, give me a story that is comprehensible, interesting. I want to see where it goes with characters for the most part that I like and want to see what happens to them.
Yeah, this isn't that complicated as far as... So we paint by the numbers. At least we use the right colors.
Karen Gordon of Original Sin, and Sin is spelled with a C.
Ooh, edgy.
Great fight scenes abound, but there are way too many superficial or uninteresting scenes that slow down an already long movie, and the film is frustratingly shallow emotionally.
That's largely fair.
Okay.
I mean, look, the scene where Jennifer Connelly does her big turn to being a good guy again just feels utterly unearned. By way of example.
I don't know what SR is supposed to be an acronym for. I mean, senior. She looks like a nun. Rose Passat of National Catholic Reporter.
Sister, maybe?
There we go. Sister Rose. Alita Battle Angel does not come near to delivering a plot and characters that rival these earlier films. Okay, I don't know what those are.
What earlier films are we talking about?
Yeah,
We're kidding.
Whoever chose your there needs whoever chose the header for that needs a serious rethink of how they do things, because that's utterly incongruous.
I just want to imagine that there is a nun who has watched the original anime OVAs for this series.
Fair play.
Well, I've got the article up. I'm trying to find where they plucked that line from, so I can figure out what the hell movie she's talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of context that needs to be had there.
Yeah.
It's better than these other movies. I mean, do you mean Casablanca? Because, yeah.
Okay, here we go. We enjoyed the Alita press experience, but the 3D film a little less. It is derivative and desperate to entertain. Our seats shook with explosions, but were a little out of sync. I thought it was so cheesy. Wow, we're about to savage a nun. Alita reminded me of other sci-fi films such as Another Earth, 2011, Upside Down, 2012, and Elysium, 2013. I called that one. These were better told.
I would contest that.
And deeply felt stories.
I would definitely contest that there was a lot of deep feeling in at least two of those other ones she referenced.
She mentioned After Earth.
No, Another Earth.
Oh, Another Earth, my bad.
With another Earth or city attached or connected in some way to a ruined Earth, with characters yearning to transcend isolation and desolation to find meaning and connection with the others. The original Blade Runner, 1982, also...
No. You do not get to the original Blade Runner, sir. You don't get to.
Okay, which version? Also contributes to
Okay, that's a fair question. That's a fair qualifier.
I'm going to go with the final cut by default.
That's my default as well.
The original Blade Runner, 1982, also contributes to the visual ethos of this film. Alita Battle Angel does not come near to delivering a plot and characters that rival these earlier films.
Okay, I would absolutely contest at least two of the movies she cited.
Take that, sister. All right. Beth Elderkin of io9.com. Salazar's Alita is the best thing here, and it's too bad this movie didn't do her justice.
No, I thought she was all right.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Hang on. You're saying this is the best... I mean, are you talking about the performance she gives? Are you talking about the rendering of her in CGI? Because saying she's the best thing, I mean, are you talking about just the looks? Because she's the best looking thing? Sure. I can get behind that. I mean, the best acting. I mean, she's the only character given an actual, arc and time to actually breathe. But I would severely contest again the credentials of the actors involved.
You know, I'm doing this bit because the Brie Larson thing cracks me up so much, but I really wish I had committed to just reading what I thought were terrible reviews, because some of the guys here are... oh, ugh. But I'm going to...
Well, no. How about you do those and you just say, I agree with you, Brie Larson. Listen to all these terrible white men.
All right, we'll switch this up. Johnny Oleksinski of the New York Post, top critic. Alita is just pretty and pretty horrible. You're right, Brie Larson. Men stink.
More importantly, why is this jackass writing for the Times and a top critic?
New York
You
Post.
took the
sorry.
words right out of my mouth.
Sorry, wait, Post?
Post.
Either way, a former newspaper.
John Liu of the Straits Times in Singapore. This movie lacks a spine and very nearly a brain. Yep, I can see why you no longer want to talk to... This guy's fucking Asian, but, you know, men in general. I get you, Brie Larson.
Okay, stop angling for an exclusive, Mark. It's never going to happen.
I don't really want an exclusive with Brie Larson. 5 minutes into it, I'd be annoyed by whatever it is she had to say.
That's about 3.5 minutes longer than I'd last.
Here's one of my favorite women in this thing. I love good old Katie Walsh.
Oh!
Of the
That
top
pains
critic
me.
of the Tribune News Service. With tonal inconsistencies and poorly written characters, any awe inspired by Alita Battle Angel is replaced with a profound sense of confusion.
Okay.
I'm not
This
sure
is-
about the confusion part.
This is not a confusing thing.
Well, it's
you-
actually pretty straightforward.
If you want to say it's, anticlimactic, sure, I'll buy that.
Yep.
That's fair. This is not confusing. More importantly, I think you're conflating broadly written with badly written. Those are two very, very different things. These are broadly written characters, with the exception of who was the one who I thought was just there again? Like any of the really minor characters, fine. I might lean towards badly written, but on the whole, these are not these are not badly written characters. They're just very broadly drawn characters. And that's not at all the same thing. There are some very, very detail-written characters who are just badly written.
Right.
Those two things should not be conflated.
Now we need to hear from Robert Winfree's spiritual father and grandfather.
Oh, shut up.
Father and grandfather. I got both of them here. Roger Moore of Movie Nation. They may have a franchise on their hands, but one without heart or sex appeal. Brrr.
Okay.
Again, I'm not trying to kink shame anyone, but really?
Go ahead, Alexis. You were starting to get upset there.
Well, I was just going to say, it's like, well, I could probably agree with the whole without heart thing, because I was part of the argument I was making earlier, but seriously, sex appeal? I don't care if this is based off of an anime. She's supposed to be a teenage girl.
Hey, look.
Again, I would say
Hold on.
Clearly she's not sexy enough.
Anime has led me to some very unrealistic conclusions about teenage girls in the past.
Oh, boo! Now for Robert's spiritual grandfather, Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, that 1-2 punch, man. That's just not fair. You should not be allowed to read those two back to back.
I loved watching the sci-fi spectacle's moving parts. I just couldn't get past its brain.
because they're cyborgs. Get it? Get it? Get it?
The crux of his point, despite it being badly made, is relatively fair. I mean, again, we're not dealing with something that's especially well crafted in the sense of totality. It is absolutely beautiful to look at, but it's not. Again, the writing, while broad and serviceable for what they're attempting, is not going to blow anyone away.
It's pulp. It's pulp sci-fi.
But is anyone else scared that this is what James Cameron's going to become known for? Storytelling with amazing special effects.
I mean,
Going to.
hold on. Like, he already is. Like, that was his rap after Titanic.
Okay, touche.
All right, I've got two more here. One from our final woman here, because we want to make sure the women are heard tonight. Marianne Johansson of Flick Philosopher.
Oh, why her? Why her?
Robert Winfree's spiritual grandmother.
Every other week with her.
Devoid
How
of
big is this spiritual family, anyway?
very big. It grows.
No.
Grows
No,
every
no, no,
show.
no. These are not my spiritual
Anything.
extended family. That's profoundly inaccurate. These people are all devoid of souls.
Devoid
And I'm
of.
a robot.
Speaking
We've
of which,
established.
devoid of personality and soul, this hellish Frankenstein monster of processed entertainment product wallows in a stew of borrowed ideas and imagery and does absolutely nothing fresh with them. 0 out of 5.
Okay, that is unbelievably harsh criticism from this, and I wasn't even that big a fan of the movie. You're just patently incorrect about at least 2 of those points.
All right, and
I
fine.
would-
Oh, go ahead.
You know what? I don't want to go off. I don't want to go off any further. Let's.
And our
Let's
final
move on.
review of the night, we will end with a man. We will mansplain. We will. This I thought had a lot of real insight, and I thought really sums up this whole thing. Tony Medley of the Tulican Times, total codswallop.
I mean, props for Codswallop, but
Well, at least it wasn't a cyborg pun, or a terrible attempt at one.
yeah, like I'll give you credit for using for the word Codswallop and trying to bring that back. That definitely I approve.
Winner by
I-
default.
I approve the lack of puns, but
I'm just trying to think of when the last time I heard Codswallop was.
believe it or not, I want to say from this exact same guy about 8 months ago in another review he did.
Ah, you unoriginal hack. All right. And with that said, we close
Wait a
out.
minute. Who wrote this? Who wrote that review?
I just closed the fucking page, dude.
Okay.
Tony Medley. That's who
Okay.
it was.
This is not a joke. I swear, last year at some point we reviewed a movie. We were doing this bit, and the review actually said utter codswallop, and I think my exact response was props for codswallop. But
Yeah.
that is a thing we have actually done. I don't know if this guy is just recycling his reviews or if he's plagiarizing from somebody else. But that is wholly unoriginal on his part.
I respect your cod's fault, but I will raise you a balderdash.
There we go.
And on that note, next week we have another Damn You Hollywood. It's Fighting With My Family, the story of Paige in the WWE. So that'll be fun.
Hold on. I have to address at least one of these things about this movie.
Yeah.
Mark, have you seen clips of this movie?
They're everywhere, sure.
Who in their right mind thinks it's a good idea to do stage fighting professional wrestling?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, there's that, because one of the clips I saw was, her Raw debut when she beats AJ. And she famously slaps Paige right before the start of the match. And it's so obviously a fake slap. And it wasn't even that wasn't even the stiffest slap to begin with from AJ. You have now, again, stage fighting in place of a professional wrestling match is so far beyond the pale of what constitutes watchable cinema. Like, if you want to just record a professional wrestling match and then show it, fair play. Actors doing a professional wrestling match is the worst thing I've ever seen. At least Mickey Rourke had the goddamn common sense to become a trained wrestler.
And for more on this, you can tune into our review next week as we review Fighting With My Family, the worst thing Robert Winfree has ever seen.
No, it is no. I saw Reese Witherspoon turn into romaine lettuce.
Hey, stop mansplaining. If you look,
Mansplaining doesn't exist.
look,
Thank you.
Had you
Sorry,
been
no,
a piece of
it's
Well,
romaine,
actually,
being
Alexis,
condescending.
had you actually been a piece of romaine lettuce, you would have understood A Wrinkle in Time.
No. Had I actually been a piece of romaine lettuce, my life would have been easier because I would have lacked the cognitive function to actually view that piece of crap.
not true. Plants experience pain.
I said cognitive function to experience that particular pain. The mere existence of A Wrinkle in Time does not exude some kind of trauma to all living things around it. It's not.
I would disagree with you.
It's bad. Don't get me wrong.
But is it levels of Dragon Ball Evolution bad?
Listen, I have an infection in my lungs
Pretty
I can't get
close.
over, and I'm pretty sure it was caused by a wrinkle in time.
You know, the timeline adds up. I'm going to go ahead and say that.
All right, tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we welcome you back to Avantasia. This Thursday, another member of our Canadian Brotherhood comes on TV Party Tonight with his lovely wife, Andrew Graham. We'll be talking The Crown Season 2 next week. The boys get together to discuss Emerald Twilight when Hal Jordan went mad, I tell you, on
That's
source material.
a horribly divisive arc. I mean, I know at least 5 people who hate it outright and about the same number who love it.
Yeah. The aforementioned Fighting With My Family, and then on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be reviewing Dream Theater. And then Alexis Hejna is actually going to come back after this show, believe it or not, after we done mansplained her to death. And she's going to discuss the Netflix animated series Carmen Sandiego. You ready for that?
Actually, I really need to finish that series.
I've been debating watching it, but then the second season of The Dragon Prince came out over the last couple of days, and that's now consuming my time for the immediate future.
The following week, we've got The Avengers, the Kree Skrull War, on source material. Myself and Jesse Starcher will have a TV party tonight for Black Mirror Bandersnatch. On the Metal Hammer of Doom...
Wow. You went deep into the Minnesotan accent for Bandersnatch there, man.
You're welcome. And then we review the new Queensryche on March 6th. March 9th, maybe, possibly, if I can get the Mr. Toxic Masculinity, Pat Mullen, drunk enough, we'll be doing a live commentary for Sean Porter versus Jordanis Ugas.
He'll have to be pretty drunk for that.
I can't get you to do it with me because you'll be covering Fight Night. Oh, my goodness gracious. It's Lewis versus Dos Santos? Really?
They're in Wichita, Kansas.
God damn. Now my tension's going to get split. The following...
Mark, just don't watch that card. It's not going to be good. I mean, God bless Junior for being willing to go to the weird places of the world at this point in time for his fights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one previous to this, I think, was in he was in Adelaide for that one. Before that, it was in Boise.
The following
and I've
week,
been to Boise.
Speaking of Brie Larson, we're going to be doing on source material Captain Marvel Volume 1, harder, faster, longer, whatever.
Higher.
Sure.
More absorbent.
Hey, now Alexis is picking up what I'm putting down. And then on Damn You Hollywood, we'll be back to mansplain the movie for you. Captain Marvel, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait. Metal Hammer of Doom will review the new In Flames.
Captain Marvel. We'll combine my 2 least favorite things in storytelling, Amnesia and Mary Sue's.
And then finally, because Robert Winfree is making me, we'll be doing a TV party tonight for One Punch Man.
I'm going to enjoy that so much.
Fuck me running. All right.
No,
and then,
in all seriousness, I do think you'll kind of get a kick out of it.
And then I'm going on vacation. God damn it! I'm jumping on a boat and going on a cruise. Maybe you'll see me when I come back. Maybe you won't. We'll never know.
Oh, tomorrow I'll try to make sure and post the English cover of One Punch Man's theme for you, because I definitely think you'll like that.
Okay. All right.
I'm just going to need a cruise to get some of the images from One Punch Man out of your brain. You are going to need so much liquor.
All right.
Hey,
Well, you're planning my cruise for me. Why don't you go ahead and take the reins here and tell us all about your business and all the wares you're trying to sell.
All righty. Yep, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic, makers of fine handmade jewelry, repurposed and upcycled from old game pieces. We got our wire-wrapped ice necklaces. We have our domino badges. We have bracelets made from Scrabble tiles. We have earrings made from Legos, Clue, and Monopoly pieces, and so on and so forth. Right now, we are currently on the off-season, but we are going to be starting up pretty soon here. End of March, we are coming back to Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City. Taking a breath. This is our home show. We're really excited to be doing this one again. Following that, we're going to be doing a double con weekend. We're going to be at OzCon in West Plains, Missouri, and at Cape Comic-Con in Cape Girardeau. This is our first time at OzCon. This is, I want to say, our 4th or 5th time at Cape Comic-Con. We always love coming back to that one. especially because they have a baker there called Cakes Reanimated, and we get cupcakes from them, and they are so good. Sorry, I need sugar right now.
I sympathize.
David, what ninja... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so yeah, Honeysuckle Rose Creations. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Protest on Twitter.
All right, David, what ninja school are you going to these days?
I'm currently not in any ninja school right now. I'm busy with other things. But thanks for asking.
He couldn't tell you.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of being ninja. Like, you don't tell people about it. They're spies.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think I have much to plug here. Just as usual, shout out to your friend and mine, Andrew Graham. Talk to you Thursday. Yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Okay. I don't know what's the next thing you're on for us? Do you anything on the top of your head that you can recall?
Well, I think I might crash the Crown Season 2 podcast.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
For a bit. Yep. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
See how that goes. And yeah, Captain Marvel, definitely. It'd be nice to actually have someone review the movie after seeing it. You know,
I do hold my criticism of the actual movie until I've actually seen it. I said Ghostbusters were going to suck based on the trailer. The fact that it sucked worse than I thought is,
Ghostbusters
not coincidental, but I waited.
Ghostbusters was a fine piece of cinema.
Stop it.
Hey, at least we're getting... You know what? I'm just going to say this. If you guys have seen that new Ghostbusters trailer that came out for the 2020 film, I frankly don't care how badly it sucks. I want Ecto Cooler back on the shelves.
It's a damn fine drink.
Look,
What
Mark,
you should do is get
the...
You should do like the Half and the Bad Guys did and get the Dan Aykroyd vodka and then mix it with the Ecto Cooler. From what I understand, it'll get you drunk.
Look, Mark, I will tolerate...
Really good.
You mean make a Slimer?
Yeah.
Is that what's called a Slimer?
Sure. Why not? Mark, I will tolerate your memery about the quality of movies like Age of Extinction. You do not get to joke about how bad Ghostbusters was. You just don't.
And if you'd like to know exactly what I thought of that movie, you can go check it out in our archives here on the Rattle Broadcasting Network.
We had that discussion.
All right. I think we're done here. Take me home, Daddy-O.
All right. As for myself, I am Robert Winfree. You can find me most Saturdays in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania, covering live MMA action. This past Sunday, rather than Saturday, I covered UFC on ESPN 1. Ken Velasquez returned from his 2.5-year hiatus in front of his hometown crowd as the conquering hero with brown pride tattooed across his chest, and was subsequently knocked out in 24 seconds.
I legit didn't know that. Oh,
yes.
That's funny. Fuck you, Cain Velasquez. Fuck you hard.
Knocked him out, may have damaged his knee. Interesting factoid. Total fight time for Cain Velasquez in main events on both Fox and ESPN, 90 seconds.
Nice.
So I covered all of that event. You can find my report of such in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. This coming Saturday, I will have coverage of UFC Fight Night 146, 5 or 6. 5. The UFC is debuting in the Czech Republic. They will be in the city of Prague, and they dragged John Vellante over there because the poor people of that part of the world have not suffered enough. They have to see a John Vellante fight.
Hey, shut up. He's from Long Island.
I don't care where he's from. He sucks.
Aw, Strong Island pride.
Look, you want to have some kind of solidarity with that schmuck? That's on you. He sucks.
Okay.
You can find me there. At the moment, still for Fridays, I am covering Impact Wrestling in the Wrestling Zone of 411 Mania. And I think I've just about killed the interest in the product. So I'm proud of myself.
According to Larry's last tweet, he should be coming home any day now.
Yeah, he's on the mend. We're all glad that Larry's back. Going to be back in the fold. Not least of which are all the people who normally, follow along with the live Impact coverage. So anyway, you can find me there. Have a laugh at how bad I am at it. And most Sundays you can find me on the 411 Ground and Pound radio show talking about the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. There was no episode this last Saturday or Sunday because I was covering an event, and that's just kind of how that works. Can't do both at the same time.
What else did you do? What did you do the prior Saturday? What did you do?
What, Saturday?
Yeah. You were the third man on our boxing coverage. As we did live commentary. Myself, Mr. Toxic Masculinity, Pat Mullen, and the soulless robot, Robert Winfree, watched as Leo Santa Cruz went 12 rounds of Roadhouse with Rafael Rivera.
Dude threw 1,270 some odd punches over the course of that 12-round fight. That is insane. I hopped on to do that at the last minute. Mark just kind of messaged me and said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And I went, "Sure." I don't have a life. So you can find me there. Again, Mark referenced a few of our upcoming episodes of Damn You Hollywood. Tune in next week when I negatively review something involving The Rock. I don't think I've done that since Doom.
Terrific. All right. For Alexis Hejna, for David Wright, for the soulless robot Robert Winfree, this has been Damn You Hollywood. We hope to offend you sometime in the future.
I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's premier home purchase lender. We've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. Our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, we lock your interest rate for up to 90 days. Then, if rates go up, your rate stays locked. But if rates go down, your rate drops. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply.
I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's premier home purchase lender. We've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. Our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, we lock your interest rate for up to 90 days. Then, if rates go up, your rate stays locked. But if rates go down, your rate drops. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply.